Three, two, one.
Welcome everyone. I think we're live. I hope we're live. If you're out there, let me know you're out there. So welcome to the PowerPlayChess channel. And I've got a live interview with Thomas Willemze from the Netherlands, in Haarlem, no less. Good evening, Thomas. How are you?
Great. Yeah, always nice to talk about chess. So I'm really happy to be here.
Well, hopefully we'll be talking about chess, but you never know how our viewers are going to be. I invite questions on music, tea, chess, and Brentford Football Club. So there could be a whole range of questions. And well, already I can see there's plenty of people on the chat, which is fantastic. So welcome everyone. I see Kevin's there. Kevin, good evening. Nice to see you. And he's a very nice comment already. Kevin says, genuinely an excellent book. So Thomas, I think you're off to a good start.
Thanks. Great to hear.
Good. I just want to check that everything's working okay. So just on the chat, if you could let me know that you can hear us and see us okay, and then we can get going in earnest. PL says, hi Dan, hi Thomas, great to see you. There's a slight delay. So while we're waiting to get official confirmation that everything's fine. So Thomas, tell me, when did you write this book? We're talking about this book, World Chess Champion Strategy Training for Club Players. Did you think of that title?
It was usually it's a combination with Neo and chess. There are some important words that need to be included. For instance, chess. And I always like to add the club player element because that's the target audience. So it's important that everyone understands. But then it gets a pretty long title, I must admit. That's true.
Yeah, it's not snappy. However, I have to say I've been reading the book over the past couple of weeks, and I think it's excellent. And Kevin says it's an excellent book. So let's just have a. Before we go any further, that's the book we're looking at, World Chess Champion Strategy Training. I think those are the key words. Published by New in Chess, and it's on at €24.95, and I think the same in dollars. And I believe it's a chessable course as well.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. It's because these are all concrete exercises. It's really suitable for Chessable. So that's why we also publish it on Chessable as well.
Excellent stuff. And tell me, when did you have the idea for this book? And well, tell us about the book in general. How could you describe it? So it's strategy training, but how are you expecting your readers to train?
What you try to do is to pick up something complex and try to make it easy and understandable for everyone. So, of course, it's not easy to understand the world champion games because these are, of course, the best players. So what I try to do is to use everything I could think of is to make it accessible. So therefore, for instance, if you look in the book, you only find one exercise on one single page and not 12 of them, which is usually the case. And I did it on purpose to make it easier for you and don't to rush or pressure on anyone to solve as quickly as possible. I want everyone to take their time and make the book as convenient as possible. So that's basically one of the things I decided to do.
And I agree. I like the layout very much. It's a very clean and clear layout. And Kevin says, I like how it's presented. The flashcard method is very good. Could you just explain what the flashcard method is, Thomas?
It's I try to summarize everything at the end, and I can, of course, write a lot of words, but you will forget those. It's quite hard to remember it. So to make it concrete, you have flashcards. That's easier to remember. So you just look at the position, try to print it in your memory. There are, of course, a few words to explain what was going on again. And those are the most important topics you need to remember from each chapter.
Let me just give an example of that. Hopefully that's visible. You can see the flashcards here. So this is basically a summary of what you've been looking at in each chapter. That's correct?
Yeah, that's true.
So we have, for example, with Anand, create an open file, block a pawn, change structure, open file. prophylaxis and so on, relating to each position. So yeah, okay, it's very clear. So Lawrence Barea says, flashcard, is that in Chessable? Well, it's in the book. I think that's pretty clear. I don't know how they've organized it in Chessable, but
there are also flashcards in Chessable.
okay.
In Chessable, of course, you can always repeat the exercises you did wrong, so you will get some opportunities to try it again and to repeat the most important stuff. But yeah, I think it's the most useful and the most added value in the book, because that's at the end of the chapter where you can look at.
Very good. Well, before we chat any further, what I want to do is set this position and ask everyone who's here on the chat. So this is a game between Vladimir Kramnik and Mikhail Ulybin, played in Greece in 1992. And you can see that Kramnik has, well, a very regular pawn structure, got 2 bishops, but it's hard. I mean, in theory, one could say that White has the 2 bishops, so normally you'd think White has the advantage, but it's not so simple to actually get some tangible advantage here. So the first question is, White to play, how did Kramnik make progress in this position? So, I mean, Thomas, tell me why you selected this particular, without giving the move away, why did you select this particular game of Kramnik's?
Yeah, I really like this game because I think it shows Kramnik's style. He's always in control. He finds the right squares for his pieces. And I think this game is also a good example of how Kramnik usually operates. And this particular position, it's one of those positions where you can be confident about your pieces, about your position, but it's not easy to find the next move, because you cannot improve your pieces because they're all doing well, and that's usually the hardest. I mean, when your pieces are worse, you can simply try to improve them, but now they all seem to be okay, and then it's not so. Yeah, it's not so.
I'm actually going to
straightforward.
I'm actually going to go back a few moves to this position, because actually I think it's quite instructive how Kramnik played from here. So first of all, before doing anything, he decided to put his king in the middle of the board, and basically that's beautifully snug in the middle. And then he thought again, and of course it's very typical, isn't it, that in these kind of positions we think in little kind of 2 or 3 move plans, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so I posted this actually a couple of days ago on my channel and asked people to suggest moves, and most people, and I can see Mysterious Meteor on the chat, has suggested A3 with the idea B4. So Thomas, what do you think about that? What do you think about A3? Is this a reasonable idea?
I think it's a move you should definitely consider. Like I said, White's pieces are doing very well, so it makes a lot of sense to look at pawn moves, of course, to try to make the next step. And A3, B4 is, of course, a standard plan, usually, to try to weaken the black pawns on the queen side. So it's definitely a move that you should consider in this position.
Okay. In concrete terms, does black have a good answer?
Question is, if black doesn't do anything, what white is going to do next? I think that's the most important thing. For instance, a move that black might consider is simply wait. Could be an option, of course, or try to, maybe play a move like F5. It's also an interesting move.
Perhaps
to make the blockade even firmer, give the knight some extra support.
Perhaps if we actually show the move that was played, and it gives a kind of clearer indication of... one thing I would say about A3 is that it does slightly compromise that pawn. So white would have to be very, very careful before making that move, actually, because it is quite committal. You know, it means you have to think very carefully what could possibly happen after this. Well, probably not a lot, but okay, it's interesting that no one has actually come up with the move. I remember there was one chap who did online. Theo Walcott says bishop takes knight. Thomas, what do you think about that?
I think it's a very committal move because we had two beautiful bishops, and I would only consider it if you have a very concrete plan that makes it worthwhile. Given the position, you could also wait if you really want to do it for some purpose.
Yeah.
But I would be very careful with such a move.
You're very polite. I think it's terrible to give up bishop for knight. Because basically the joy about having bishops, of course, is that you can choose exactly the right moment when to exchange off for a knight. And there's no rush with this. So, yeah, this is a wonderful piece. Theo, I'm being harsh but fair. It's interesting, no one has suggested the move so far. Alex says h4. In fact, we've had a couple of suggestions. A couple of people have suggested h4. Kevin said h4 to anticipate the endgame. Well, you're in an endgame, sort of. Theo's still protesting. He thinks the knight is too strong. You've got to hang back. Anyway, Thomas, what do you think of h4?
The question is what you're up to do next, because it's also quite a committal move. So yeah, I think you have to be careful not to have your pawns blocked too much, because then the knights will become even more stable. So at some point, we need to be careful here. And there's also a lot of pressure on the e-pawn. So I'm not sure about this position, but knight takes g3 might become tricky in some occasions.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because g3 is... So obviously king f2 doesn't work because of rook e2 check, so I guess the king comes back. Yeah, I mean, it must be good for white, but sometimes
but
you have to be careful.
From now on, you have to watch it every move, and that's a pity, I think.
I think h5 is a good move, actually.
Yeah, because it block the pawns.
Could be useful to use that square, actually, at some moment. So h4, interesting. No one has come up with this. Does that surprise you, Thomas? When you give this as a training exercise, do you find your students often get this one, or is this a bit of a mystery?
This is a tough one. This is a very tough one, and I think the book has a combination of exercises where it's a bit easier. It makes sense to prove your worst piece, or more easy exercises, and there are also more difficult ones. It's definitely a difficult one, but also one that if you try to solve it and maybe fail to solve it and look for the answer, you've definitely learned something, because it gives you new ideas in your games. So I think this is such a exercise. It's no problem not to find the answer, because it will help you anyway, simply by learning from Kramnik.
Joshua P. It's interesting, actually, because there have been such a range of answers. So we've got another idea. Joshua Pim suggests f3 and e4. What do you think of f3?
It's a pity for the bishop on g2, because it's blocking its view. And it might have some concrete issues with the e-pawn being weak. I want to play e4, maybe f5 is coming at some point.
Yes, I wonder if... I'm not sure which one, but okay, we'll play back here.
Yeah, maybe c5, yeah.
And then, well, yes, obviously this one lands in white in big trouble. And otherwise, well, okay, you can play bishop d4, but somehow, well, if we can grab one of those bishops, then black has certainly achieved something. So yeah,
you could always play f5 and attack it later.
Indeed, yes, f5 potentially a good move as well. So no, not f3. Very interesting. Let me just... Script Nerd asks, can you please tell us what should we look at in such positions? So, I mean, I think we can... Shall we reveal the answer?
Yeah, I think I can give one hint, because
Okay.
I already explained our pieces are doing wonderful. So it doesn't make sense to move one of our pieces. So a pawn move is definitely one to look at. A3, B4 is a place to start, but when we play B4 and black plays rook A8, we cannot really make progress. So at some point we have to draw the conclusion we need to switch to the other side of the board and play on the king side. And our aim would be to open up files and diagonals for our long-range pieces, because that's what we need at the moment. Our rooks are okay, but they don't have an open file. And the bishops, they always want more space to look at. So that should be our aim.
Yeah, and perhaps I can give a little hint as well, is that when one has these 4 pawns on the king side against 3 pawns here, the move that Kramnik plays is so common. You know, I call this the squeeze, basically. G4 was played by Kramnik. As Tim Kokesh says, yeah, I mean, I remember this game at the time. I'm so old. I can't remember when it was played, and this was a strategic masterpiece from Kramnik. But G4, I love this move because it cramps these 3 pawns. I mean, what else would you say about this move? Okay, you, apart from opening the king side, but
yeah. What I find very interesting in this game is that black kept all his pawns close. So he didn't touch most of his pawns for a while. He could have played f5, h5. He could have done a lot of those moves, but he didn't. And then at some point, yeah, he basically invited Kramnik to push his pawns forward. And also he doesn't have any serious counterplay. So Kramnik can play like he usually does, is be very slow and at some point achieve his goal. And that's what, yeah, I think what is going to happen.
Okay, so let's just roll this one forward. So rook e6 and now h4. So as you described. Yeah, what I like about this is that Kramnik takes his time.
Yeah, that's quite typical for him.
At least in those days it was.
Yeah. That's true.
He rather changed his style, actually.
Yeah, this is an interesting move also, rook d5.
Go on.
Because you want to support g5, but you have to be careful. And that's, of course, the most tricky thing about these positions. Because rook g1 is a very natural move to push your pawn. But you don't. You should always remember that you're still a bit vulnerable in the center. So some tricks are coming now.
Ah, I see. Or at least I think I see.
Yeah.
Yes. The hoppy knights.
So black was just waiting, but now we have to be careful because there are some threats.
Okay, I can see time is marching on, so let's just roll on fairly quickly. Knight a6. Now this is interesting. a3. So he's at this moment he decides to prevent the knight coming in here, and then he rolls for. I think this is a bit different when he plays b4 in this position because he does it with tempo.
The knight was on d7 when we started the position.
So the timing is right. And okay, I think this was the second position that you gave in the book. So here we go. White to play. What did Kramnik do next? So let me throw it open to the chat. White to play. Kevin says, by the way, bishop f3 was subtle. Yes, that was a nice move, wasn't it, Thomas?
Yeah, yeah, certainly.
So what was the point?
Yeah, the point is to open up the chief file, because at someday we want a rook to attack the king.
Yeah. Okay, so white to play. Operation Crossroads says so difficult.
When you click through the game, it all looks easy, usually, when Kramnik plays.
Absolutely.
But then when you have to sit down for yourself, it's a whole different story.
Very much so, yeah. But, okay, Omkar says G5, maybe. G5. Well, in fact, there's a good response to G5. Because black plays... I've got this analysis written down in front of me, so I'm Omkar, I'm cheating. I admit I'm cheating. But rook a8, in this case, gives black some counterplay. This is the problem. And after this, then this rook runs round. And actually, white doesn't have such a great attack. Very interesting. No one's getting this one either. Harry Cominos. Good evening. Rook a1 just to prevent black from playing rook a8. He's got it right, hasn't he?
It's a great move, yes. Yes, because we are trying to open up a file for a rook, but now we already have a file, so we have to be very careful not to give it away to our opponent. Because then he would generate counterplay.
Yeah. I can see attack helicopter, which is a fine username, has suggested bishop takes g7. Well, that's certainly an attack helicopter move, but I think I'm going to disregard.
Definitely.
Yeah, but we'll disregard that one. Rook a1 is excellent. Okay, I'm going to keep going because I want to look at another example. The rook came back. It's interesting. Black has basically achieved nothing over the past few moves. Rook a7 ties black to this one. Kevin says Thomas tricked us by mentioning the G file. So everyone was like looking over there, and now you switch back over here.
Yeah, you have to zoom out at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm going to zip through because Joel Ra asks, what opening did this come from? I remember.
Queen's Indian, I think.
It was a Bogo Indian.
Oh, Bogo Indian, yeah.
Because I used to play this very
much. You were there. I was too young.
Yeah, I was there, exactly. Yeah. Not exactly, but yeah, not at the tournament, but I remember it, yeah. So, okay, I'm just going to zip through this. So finally, he broke with g5, sacking a pawn. And this bishop has this wonderful square. So, in fact, black's rooks are absolutely dreadful. What I find interesting is that, you know, in a sense, white hasn't done anything special here. Okay, Kramnik's controlled the game. But on the king's side, okay, he's just given a pawn. And basically just black has absolutely no defense here. I mean, I went back and I checked this. And black is utterly lost here. There really is no defense. And yet, you sort of imagine, oh, well, you know, this shuts out the bishop. Surely this is okay. But I'm going to zip through this. And yes, F4 is the key move to open the file. And another nice move, King F3. The king is beautifully placed. And at this point, black resigned. I'll just go through the final moves and winning this rook. Absolutely fantastic game. Yeah. I'm not surprised you picked that one, Thomas. How long did it take you to write this book, by the way?
I had already for Chessable made some small courses on 3 of the world champions, so I already had some material, but I think half a year or something like that. I literally clicked through hundreds of games from each of the world champions. It's really nice to do because you get a very clear picture on their style and the differences.
Kevin asks, can we actually learn something from this G4 and Rook A1 moves? Is there any pattern recognition here? Kevin, I would say absolutely. I mean, I could give you 20 other examples where G4 or reversing the colours G5 is played in similar positions. It's actually very, very common with this pawn structure.
Yeah, but also the switching to the other side. That's also an interesting component to remember. Not to focus blindly on your attack, but just checking, can my opponent do anything? And take your time. I think that's one of the most important lessons.
Okay, so just for those who are joining us on the broadcast, we're looking at this book, World Chess Champion Strategy Training for Club Players, which is written by my guest here, Thomas Willemze. And it's a really fine book, I have to say. Beautifully presented, very cleanly laid out. It's published by New in Chess, €24.95 and dollars. And I've pinned the links to the book and to the Chessable course at the top there. If you want to click through to buy it, you can get it directly online. Okay, so Thomas, this next game, Anatoly Karpov against Tamas Giorgatsa from the Soviet Championship in 1983. So what attracted you to this game?
This is, I think, one of such examples where it's a bit easier to spot the right patterns. And the way Karpov plays it is really straightforward. That's what I like. And yeah, I think this is quite a typical Karpov game in that sense.
It's his system, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
With and this maneuver with Knight C1, of course. Well, I was going to say his system. Well, Geller played it first, and he taught Karpov. But that's another story.
He made it famous.
Yeah. Well, Geller was pretty famous with it, but anyway. I'm going to zip through to the position where you gave a question in the book. Yes, this knight is very poorly placed. Okay, now it's not so poorly placed. Okay, folks. Omkar says this example is to troll Danny. That's probably a reference to my love of the Najdorf variation. I've played this with this opening with white and black, actually. I rather enjoy playing Bishop E2. Kevin says, why Knight C1? Okay, before we look at this position, which is the one, Thomas, that you gave in the book, do you want to just explain Knight C1?
Yeah, I think the way it worked out here is that Karpov freed the b3 square for his pawn, and he could protect the c2 pawn, which is usually one of the big issues, the pressure on the c file. I think that's an important one.
Well, I would say that so often in the Najdorf, or in the Sicilians in general, the knight on b3 is poorly placed. d5 is the key square here. And this starts a little journey. So knight c1 to d3 to b4, for example, takes control over the d5 square. And Karpov did this in some very famous games. It can also go via a2 as well. So that's, for me, I mean, knight c1 is absolutely normal in this variation. It's so typical of this Karpov-Geller system, actually. Okay, so just coming on to, so as you also say, yeah, it's possible to play b3 now. So just moving on to this position, which is the position that you set in the book. And I think, Thomas, you gave 3 choices here for white. Do you want to just give everyone your 3 alternatives they can choose from?
Yeah, I don't really know it by heart. Do you?
So there's bishop takes c5, there's c4, and there's f4.
There's f4. Yeah, you have to choose between two pawn breaks and a piece trade, which are my favorite topics in training sessions, because when you move a pawn or trade a piece, those are the irreversible decisions. So those are, I think, one of the most important things to train. And here you have to choose between them.
Okay, so here we go. Those are your alternatives: pawn to c4, pawn to f4, or bishop takes knight. Which of those would you choose? So an Omkar wants to play h4, king h2, and bishop h3. He's going for a fourth.
I'm not sure that's allowed here, but
I'm afraid I'm gonna block that one, because, well, once the king goes to h2, then there's a big check on g4. So I'm sorry, Omkar. Operation Crossroads says f4 looks interesting. Thomas, talk me through f4.
Yes, yeah. I think the problem with f4 is it weakens the position a bit, and yeah, black can improve his pieces quite easily here.
To me,
it looks a bit dangerous for white here.
This is the dream position for every Najdorf player. This is what you want, because suddenly, these guys play f4 and think, yeah, I'm attacking. But actually, it just blows up white's king side. The king now only has 2 pawns in front of it. There's no f-pawn. This diagonal is weak. The e3 square is weak. In fact, all these squares on the e-file are weak. Black is about to take over the position. This is a dream Najdorf. I'm sorry to be so harsh, but this is why I play the Sicilian with black. That's the position that I love. That kind of thing, when my opponent thinks he's attacking and it all spins round and you whack him. Do you play the Sicilian, Thomas?
I did. As a child, I played many dragon games, but I stopped doing that at some point, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, I'm being very harsh. Okay, so what about c4? No one went with c4, but okay, we can just say...
Yeah, you can take it. The knight has become very, very pretty now.
I just like rook b8 here. Just take the file. Hey, we learned that in the last position. Let's take the file. We've learned something. Yes. Why not? And this is one of my favourite themes on the channel. Split rooks are terrible. Split rooks, they can't operate well together. When the rooks are together, that's beautiful. But when the rooks are split, I'm afraid that's a little landmark that things aren't going well. So, in fact, Joshua Pym mentioned that he liked this because, and he already mentioned this maneuver. Knight here, hitting the rook, and then knight b4. Joshua, well done. And perhaps there were others as well. But this, Thomas, is the key maneuver, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, and that's what attracted me in this example, is that it's kind of a counterintuitive trade, because the bishop is, of course, a very nice piece. But Karpov has a very clear aim. So I think that's something to pay attention to. That sometimes it feels bad to trade such a nice piece, but you always have to focus on what's next and then trade it anyway, because it's a very good move here.
It's an octopus knight. It's a beautiful knight. By the way, Thomas, are you potentially related to someone called Ifka Willemze?
Not that I know. Oh, Ifka. Yes. That's my brother's daughter.
Ah, Ifka. Well, Ifka is waving to you on the chat.
Ah, hi, Ifka.
Hi, Ifka.
Yes, that's family.
Okay, fantastic. That's good. We like that. Excellent. Good evening, Ifka. Is Ifka a chess player?
Yes. Yeah, she knows. She certainly knows how to play.
Excellent.
She learned it from my brother, Jeroen Willemze.
Okay, Jeroen. Okay, good. Let's roll on. So the knight's beautiful on b4 and coming to c6. And this is how the game went. But now black starts to get a little bit of counterplay here, which is potentially quite dangerous, actually. I'm going to zip through. Karpov played c4 because I want to look at some other examples. And rook e2 is very nice. e3, as I was saying earlier, black so often gets counterplay in the Najdorf on the king side, just because black has a majority of pawns on the king side. And if you exchange a couple, then the king is weak. But I think what's interesting here is that, well, Karpov understands this very well. So before he did anything else, this is really nice, isn't it?
You mentioned the rooks earlier. Now they're looking the way they should be.
Exactly, yeah. And the game ended like this. Okay, I'm going to ask chat one more question about this. This is the final move of the game. How did Karpov just shut this one down? This is a really Karpovian finish, to my eyes anyway. So this was in 1983, which was, I think we could say Karpov was, well, at his pinnacle in 83, probably. Some might say he improved with Kasparov, but well done, Will Gregory. Well done, Unknown. Well done, Newbie. Well done, Script Nerd. All saying Rook C2, killing the knight, and then Rook C8. Yeah, beautiful game. Now, Thomas, when we were discussing this earlier, you said you really wanted to have a look at a game by Ding Liren, and of course, I've mislaid it. Just let me find it, folks. Bear with me.
Yes, because I think it's a nice anecdote. Because I was starting this book quite a while ago, and by that time we had a very solid world champion, Magnus Carlsen. So I was planning to do all the world champions from Fischer till Carlsen. But at some point, Carlsen announced that he was no longer competing for the world championship. And then I realized that my deadline was after the match between Ding and Nepomniachtchi. So I had to focus on a new world champion at that time and add an extra chapter.
Okay, do you know what? I haven't managed to include it. I've blown it. I've given you this introduction.
Maybe you can mention it somewhere so people can look it up.
Yeah. Okay, so it was Inakiev against Ding Liren, wasn't it? Yeah,
that's right.
Okay, listen, let's go on to the next one. Let's talk about Carlsen. We need at some point to talk about Carlsen.
Yeah.
I thought this was really interesting, actually. So I'm going to zip through these first few moves. Typical Queen's Gambit exchange variation. Thomas, what do you have to say about this pawn structure and the exchange variation?
Well, it's really popular nowadays, I must say, because you see it everywhere. And yeah, I think what you see here is that at some point White will try to attack his opponent on the queen side with a minority attack. That's one of the big plans for White. And Black can try to develop an initiative on the king side. But yeah, it plays out differently in this game.
Seems to me that, in these examples we're looking at, pawn structure determines plans, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I think that's very important. That somehow you can link the idea to the structure, and you see it happening more often, and then you start learning, of course, new ideas that you can use in your game.
Oh, hang on. Malatsa Sekwati says, watching from South Africa. Well, that's cool. I think that might be our furthest viewer. So welcome to Malatsa. That's fantastic. If there's anyone else who's further away than South Africa, then let me know. But Malatsa, you've won first prize. There is no prize, but if I'm going to present you with the medal for the furthest away. Well, okay, we're talking about structure, and structure determines plans. So I know this wasn't a position that you gave in the book, but okay, what should white play here? Because I think it's very instructive how Carlsen builds up. Obliviac says he's in Colorado. Yeah, that might be a little bit further than South Africa. I don't know. It's close. Not sure. Jose Raul Capablanca says he's watching from the Arctic Circle, which I didn't anticipate from Jose Raul. I thought he was in Havana, but anyway. Okay, white to play, everyone. It's all gone very quiet. Oh, Mr. V says he's in Taipei. Okay, that's pretty cool. So we've got a very international audience. This is excellent. Omkar's in Mumbai. Nice. Attack Helicopter says he's in Yorkshire. Thomas, have you ever been to Yorkshire?
Not yet.
God's own country. It's a fine place. Okay, Omkar is suggesting knight e2 to f4. Well, it's possible. I mean, it would be nice to certainly to drive away the queen. I mean, my only thought is that maybe the knight could move here to stop that, but Mysterious Meteor wants to play knight g5 followed by f4. And how's this move? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks nice.
I mean, queen g6 is possible as well. Jose Raul, that's a little bit rude. That's interesting. Kevin says a rook on c1. Thomas, what do you think of rook c1? And Will says that as well.
At this moment, at the wrong place. I think it's a very logical move, but it's really hard to seriously threaten the c6 pawn while the knight is on e7.
Well, we've been saying, haven't we? Pawn structure determines plans. The move is rook e1. If you've got a beautiful 4v3 majority, my goodness, I want to get things going. Feels very natural to me. Script Nerd says, can you explain the pawn structure? Well, I just am. You've got a 4-3 pawn majority, and if you can ram that majority home, then the king is going to be weaker. So ideally, well, I won't say anything more actually, because Thomas, I think this was the position that you gave in the book.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so white to play. Bearing in mind what I've just been talking about realizing the strength of this kingside pawn majority, so what would you play here? You know, it's all gone very quiet, Thomas. You've managed to confuse them completely with your strategy. Kevin says f4, f5 plan. Absolutely, Kevin. Bang on. So how are you going to actually realize this plan? How are you going to set it in train? Jörg Melchiors says knight d2, then f4. Knight d2. Well, Thomas, what do you think of that?
The f pawn is very well, but we also want to push f5 at some point. So it would be really nice to have some control there as well. So we're playing on the king side, So maybe we should keep the knight there if possible.
Okay, well, Unknown and Obliviax and Volker and Attack Helicopter and Will Gregory all say knight h4. Well done, folks. Well done. So knight h4, looking to advance the f-pawn, and also the knight does control the f5 square. So the game went like this. Okay, knight here. An exchange. It's actually very interesting the way he plays this, because, you know, one might imagine, well, has white achieved too much through these exchanges?
We traded one piece.
Well, let's see how it works out. And f4. Okay, good. So now we're getting going. I mean, this would just be a winning attack, basically, if this comes in. So queen f5 was played. Right, let's throw it over to the chat. So, white to play. Tim Kokesh says he's in California. Okay, so we really do have a very international crowd. Jörg Melchius says, I'm sorry that my name is so hard for an English person. How patronizing, Jörg. By the way, Jörg and everyone else, we're publicizing Thomas's book, World Chess Champion Strategy Training for Club Players. That's patronizing as well. It's an excellent book, folks. Published by New in Chess, $24.95. Really nice layout. It's really instructive material. I can warmly recommend it. And I've put the links up on the chat there. Now, we've got lots of suggestions. We have Jose Raul, knight d1 to e3. Yeah, Script Nerd, knight d1. Obliviax, knight d1. Adam Moyes says knight d1 to e3. Gert de Meyer says king h1. No, let's go for it. Knight d1 is the move. So the queen is pushed and queen d3 with the idea knight f5 to d6. And yeah, it's already really powerful for white. So yeah, we saw earlier that Carlsen switched the rook over to e1. At this point, it seems to make a lot of sense, doesn't it, Thomas?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And the game finished like this. And even though this knight comes to e4, well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear what's going on here. I mean, white's pieces are just supreme. And okay, I'm going to hand it over. White to play. What should you do here? White to play. Obliviax asks, is there a particular training philosophy behind the book? Is there that's quite a deep question, is it?
Yeah, I think the philosophy is that you have to solve positions, think for yourself to become stronger. I think that's the most important thing. And what I try to do is to have very brief answers that fit on only one page and try to use words. So I use rarely exclamation marks, question marks. I always try to explain it in words. That's basically what I'm doing. So it's understandable.
Okay, so I just want to give an example of that, Thomas, because Newbie was asking, can we see the inside of the book, random page? So yeah, here's a typical position. It's very. Can you see that clearly? Hopefully. So we've got exercise here, and then if I turn the page, so you don't give it away, then there's what actually happened and a summary and an explanation. But yeah, what I like about it is that the layout is very clean. It's very clear. Did you have a hand in the typesetting and the layout, Thomas?
Well, the way it is designed, like one page for the exercise, one for solution, that was my idea. I read many chess books myself, and I'm always a bit. I don't like the pressure of having many exercises on one page because then I feel rushed, and I want to look at the solution right away. That's something I like as well. So therefore,
Yeah.
that was
Instead of having to
what I wanted
flick
to
to
do.
the back and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, I just want to go to the next page. And also, you can just pick up the book now and look at any exercise and directly go to the solution and then
Yeah.
put it away if you want.
You can take it on the train and
Yeah.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
read it on the train or whatever.
Yeah, my girlfriend mentioned it as a beach book. Maybe that's a nice thing
beach
you can
book?
do. Yeah, because
I'm-
it's summer now.
Wow, I'm getting a little flavour of your lifestyle, Thomas. That sounds pretty cool. Fantastic. Bayriti Noritizevic says, "Hello, Daniel. Can the book be bought international?" Well, I'm not quite sure what you mean. Is it in different languages? Well, of course. You can buy it directly from New in Chess. The book from New in Chess, the course from Chessable. I would say this is international. It's in English, but it's not published in German or yeah.
It's in English, but yeah, I think it's quite understandable.
Yeah, Bayriti, I think it's very clear, it's very clean. I think you'll understand it. Seems to me you're looking at your language here. I think you passed the test. I reckon you'd be up to understanding this. It'll be good. Let me see. I don't think anyone's got the answer to this one yet, actually. Oh, no, Volker did. Volker says knight d5. Yeah, that was the move. So what's the point, Thomas?
Yeah, we're going to use the pin. The d pawn is now pinned, so we can pick up the knight again.
And the game went queen takes, and now that's a very sound extra pawn. And yes, Carlsen's rook came good. So yeah, basically it was just a very logical strategy from this moment, pushing forward in the middle. Because very often we see in this, well, the so-called Carlsbad structure, as some people like to call it, we see b4 and a4 and this kind of thing. But once Carlsen switched to the king side, well, he was very root one. He basically didn't mess around. And
he was slightly ahead in development, so that really helped to get the momentum here.
Yeah, that's true. Nice example. Will Gregory says it's like kind of like the Fischer Spassky game. I think you're probably thinking of the Queen's Gambit game. Yeah. Was it game 5? I think it was. Let's have another example. Yeah, coincidentally, it's a similar kind of pawn structure as well. So we've got Carlsen against Anand from Moscow 2013. Talk me through this game, Thomas.
This is an IMSO Indian. Yeah, but what I wanted to do is it's a bit quick now. I think it's pretty standard development for white here.
Similar kind of pawn structure to the last game, of course.
Yeah, I think one of the big issues for white is his bishop is a bit weak. That's why he tries to trade it here.
So,
and now he seizes the open file.
Yeah. Now Anand switches with bishop c8. Okay, so white to play. What did Carlsen play here? This is a wonderful game. We've got a question. Script Nerd asks, how many exercises does the book have, Thomas? Hello? Did you catch that, Thomas?
Yes, 100 exercises.
100 exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's good. All right, so you won't just need one trip to the beach, basically.
Oh, you have to spend a lot of time there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. We can spend a lot of time at the beach. I like the sound of that. It's white to play, folks. Oh, I've got some strange answers here. We've got bishop takes d5. No, 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 no. I think that just blunders a piece. I think you're interested in checkmate or something, but I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. Okay, attack helicopter and Operation Crossroads both want to play e4. Thomas, what do you think of that? Oop, hang on. I didn't quite catch that. Do you want to say that again?
Yes, yeah. The question is if you're ready to trade your bishop, your beautiful bishop on g2.
Okay, well let's see what would happen. Possibly.
Yes, and now maybe bishop f5 is an idea.
Well, to be honest, I've seen worse ideas. I mean, you know, something like this could potentially give white some advantage. Maybe. Well, let's just have a little think here. Maybe bishop g4 instead. I don't know. This doesn't look terrible, I have to say. Let's just come back. Maybe there's a better move here. Maybe just bishop d7. Just keep it very solid for the moment. Because the bishop, I think, gets in the way a little bit. Yeah. Okay, no one has come up with the right answer. Again, Thomas, is this one that confuses your students?
Yes. Well, I think when the move e4 pops up, you're, I think, thinking in the right direction. We want to create something for our pieces because our pieces are much better than the black ones. So we want to open up the position. But there's a better way to do it, I think.
Okay.
A safer way, I would say.
So f3 was played. I mean, I find this really interesting because to my eyes, this looks quite slow, I have to say. How could white get away with this?
The pieces are not very well placed at the moment. And we also control the f6 knight. That's another advantage we have here.
Yeah, it's interesting. So basically, black has to do something about the bishop, and then e4 just arrives very, very quickly, also with tempo. So because, you know, often when white tries this f3 and e4 in these kind of positions, this can go very badly wrong for white. But I think here, because black's pieces are very awkwardly placed, and there's a clear tempo that white is winning.
Ready a lot of pressure on c6, and that really helps, I think.
Yeah. So here Anand exchanged, but this is interesting. If this, then in fact, well, where have we seen this before? Hopefully, folks, you're all learning something about pawn structure here. This is a beautiful, 4-3 kingside pawn majority. And particularly when there are weaknesses here, this looks absolutely wonderful for white. So Anand took here and put the queen back, but Carlsen broke And this is an absolute killer move.
Yeah, in combination with the previous move taken on e6. That's a nice idea.
I mean, this is very Fischer-esque. It seems to me, this momentum with the rook and bishop. It's really interesting. Yeah, Harry Comino says, haven't you done a video about this on the channel? I think I did do a video on the channel. And here, this is a favourite piece placement of mine. I call this the Starfish Bish, or the Archbishop, because it just dominates these rooks. Just can't be budged. And Anand resigned here. A potential finish is like this. And, well, black can do absolutely nothing. Anand understands that this is completely hopeless. But yeah, that's a wonderful final position. Let me see. Let's take a few more questions. Maybe I can see time is running out. Thomas, thank you very much for joining us for all this time. Do you mind if we maybe look at just one more position? Is that okay?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. So let's have a look at this one. So I'm going to zip through very quickly. By the way, Joshua Pym says, I love a nice attacking game, but you cannot beat these strategic concepts, in my opinion. They feel so harmonious. Well, they are strategic, but they also finish with attacks as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of aggression in it as well, yeah. That's
exactly,
true.
Yeah.
And we have a chapter on Kasparov. That's also, if you love attacks.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, a lot of these positions do end up with attacks, but that's kind of the fruit of good strategy, that you end up attacking somehow. It's not all about, grinding someone down in an endgame. Okay, folks, you might recognize this pawn structure again. And, okay, we saw Magnus playing the rook here to e1. Okay, so let's bear that in mind. And I think this is the position you gave, Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, folks. I think we'll call this our final position we're going to look at. White play. How did Kramnik play here? So this was from 93. So just a quick shout out again. This is Thomas's book, Strategy Training. That's what I'm going to call it. I think that's a lot simpler.
No problem.
Than the word salad that is actually on the cover. Strategy Training. It's an excellent book. I highly recommend it. I've put the links in the chat, so if you want to click through and get the book or the Chessable course, please do that. I highly recommend it. €24.95, and I guess the same in dollars. Okay. Here we go. White to play. What did Kramnik do next? Oh, we've got f3. There we go. Thomas, what do you think of f3?
I think it's an interesting move. But yeah, if you are going to push e4, you have to be careful not to make the d pawn too weak. So maybe something like rook d8 is, I think, a logical one.
Yeah, true, but certainly not out of the question, because one could also sometimes follow with g4. Actually, to be honest, f3 looks like a normal move to me.
Yeah, it's an interesting move. Yeah, certainly.
But Kramnik's was somehow much more forceful. Omkar suggests bishop e6 and queen g6. What do you think of that one?
question is which pieces are ready to join. The queen looks nice, but it will need some assistance. So I think
I mean, I guess this knight
maybe
could come
knight
back.
e7 or something. Yeah, knight f8.
Yeah,
if you need to.
in fact, it doesn't look... Yeah, at first you kind of think, oh yeah, wow. But actually, once the knight reaches f8 with tempo, then I think let's not panic. In fact, Kramnik did exchange on e6, but what did he do next? Jörg says, every time your chess trainer says that's an interesting move, you know you're wrong. Nice comment. It's all gone very quiet. No one has suggested it. Wow.
No, it's a tough one. This is a tough one.
Yeah? Okay. Well, he exchanged here. I'm going to give it away. He exchanged and then followed with f4. Okay, Thomas, you've got to explain this one. There's a lot of...
It's interesting. Yeah, like I explained, I said earlier, I love counterintuitive piece trades because it makes you maybe feel a bit different about trading pieces. Before we had Kramnik with the bishops, now we have him with the knights. And if we have the knights, I think in this position it's important to have the center under control because Kramnik wants to attack once again. And now the bishop on f6 is just looking at pawns, and it's impossible to open up the center for black.
In fact,
so that's really a nice concept.
All these pieces look dreadful, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what happened, and now Kramnik went for it with g4. But this, as you say, this is a consequence of the center being completely under control, so white can afford to play like this. And g5, this just blows black away. And then e4. I mean, this, to be honest, to me, this is classic Kramnik, isn't it? There's a certain power, absolute power in his best games. It's very,
it looks really simple and straightforward when you click through his games.
Yeah. And in fact, that was the final move, incredibly. I mean, it's really fast. So the idea is that after this, okay, that can't be taken. Simply queen h5. And that presumably something very nasty is going to happen. Okay, it attacks a rook. That's one thing. I have to work out why. Presumably he's going to check and then do something crude like this. I don't know. Okay, let's
knight e4.
Knight f7. That's what he's going to do. No?
Or knight e4 is also an opportunity.
Knight e4. Really? Why are we going knight e4?
Yeah, I don't think black really has anything to do here.
I think I prefer knight f7. Because after this, aren't we just...
Yeah, the queen is hanging.
Oh, the queen is hanging.
That's the problem.
Fantastic. There you are. It's so easy to get to throw it all away. So you think knight e4? I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have resigned here. Wait a second, what's going on? Queen takes knight.
Then knight f6.
Yeah, okay. I think we can do better than this. I think we're. Do you know what? I think we're messing up Kramnik's position very badly. Okay, so what are we doing, folks? Okay, why don't we do this? Let's be a bit brutal. Are we getting there? Maybe not yet. Let's do this one, because unfortunately after this, the rook can block here.
Maybe just take the bishop.
Take the bishop. Okay, that's probably
Let's see what
sensible.
happens.
Yeah. I think we're getting there, in spite of all my blunders. Yeah, very good. Yeah, well, really powerful play from Kramnik anyway. Okay, listen, I think we're going to wrap things up there. Thank you, everyone, for attending this broadcast. Look out for more. I'm hoping to do some more over the next few weeks anyway, and get back into the routine. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us. And well, I think reception for the book has been pretty good so far. Yeah.
Yeah, what I heard, people liked it. Yeah, it's great.
Like I said, I warmly recommend it. It's a very nice book. Joshua Pym asks, is there an ebook of this?
Yes, yeah. Newer Chess also has ebooks. You also have Forward Chess, where you can buy the book. There are many different digital ways to get it.
Okay, so there's a physical book, there's the Chessable course, there's an ebook, and there's Forward Chess.
Yes.
Listen, folks, you have no excuse at all. It's a great book. Just go for it. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye, everyone. Thanks very, very much for attending. Thomas, we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye.